Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. I don't know why I'm recording like this, just trying something totally different. So I want to give you guys a little bit of an update. I've been dropping videos daily because I just am in the mood to create a little bit. And so I want to go through some of the decision-making process on this new OM-1 camera. I shared some of my thoughts yesterday a little bit, and I've come to a conclusion. But I want to kind of walk through some of the things that were mentioned on my video yesterday and how they gave good thought to what is some things to consider. Just for reference, I'm shooting this on the EM1 Mark III with the 25 1.2 at 1.2, and I'm recording audio separately on my iPhone because the microphone I have doesn't reach as far. So there's that. All right, so the OM-1, right? So we heard of the announcement yesterday. I think it's really interesting. A couple things, by the way, some of the Olympus visionaries like Jimmy Chang, Red 35, and Robert Wong out of Malaysia, they didn't get one of these cameras. So I thought that was interesting. I know they're prior Olympus visionaries and they have contracts that are running out. So I'm wondering if they're going to kind of flip this thing around and get away from people that are doing portraits and weddings and focus solely on people or ambassadors that are in the adventure, photography, wildlife, maybe even sports type of space, especially given the specs of the current camera or the new camera. So the proposition yesterday was, I heard the announcement. I was kind of underwhelmed. Then I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. I watched some more videos that I found that are maybe less popular of people that actually had the camera for some time. And I got to thinking about the proposition of this OM-1 camera and if I'm going to keep it. Now, my current camera is the EM1 Mark III with the battery grip. And just real quick, I actually really like the form factor of this camera. And I actually really like the battery grip. I'm falling in love with the battery grip just because it just makes the camera feel more solid. If I'm vlogging with it, I hold it from the base. I think it's really nice. And where this camera falls short, if anything, is in a couple spots that are addressed by the OM-1. That's the viewfinder. I mentioned this yesterday. The sensor's kind of old, even though I get some nice files. In fact, I took some pictures last night of my son playing soccer. I'll put them up right here alongside of me. And, I actually have no problem with the image quality as long as you keep the ISO fairly low, especially if you post-process. So there's things you can do there, not really a big deal. I like the fact that this thing's a rugged camera, that it's, essentially weather sealed. And I kind of aspire to do the adventure photography stuff, even though I haven't put much of that on this channel. Like, for example, I'm going snowmobiling this weekend. If there's snow, I'm going to bring the camera with me. I'm going to go skiing next weekend, taking my son and my daughter. I'm going to bring the camera with me. That's the camera I want. And so as I think about other systems, I think about what other cameras can support that. And Olympus is kind of towards the top. They got the stabilization. They've got the weather sealing. They can get real small and compact with their lenses, all that stuff. So I thought about what OM-1 has to offer over the EM1 Mark III. And I don't think it's a wow camera per se, but I do think there's enough there to kind of bring things up. I mentioned the EVF. I mentioned the sensor, the autofocus improvements. I saw DP reviews comments. They said they had some mixed reviews on it, but I've seen some other reviews of people that aren't necessarily Olympus visionaries or OM ambassadors. And it looks like it's significantly improved. I wouldn't say necessarily Canon or Sony good, which we'll find out at some point, but it looks like it's way, way better. And so that was a big one for me. I actually like the ergonomics. That some of the things I saw and that changed on it were interesting. I made a comment yesterday in my video about the scroll wheel around the shutter button. I have to try the other method out, I guess, to see if I like it or not. And so at the end of all of this, I thought to myself, okay, if Olympus is the camera, or if not OM Systems is the camera I want to be with, this camera addresses a lot of the things that I would probably say are not wrong, but could be improved on the current EM1 Mark III. So I think that's all good. Like the battery, just everything looks to be great, and they didn't get rid of the stuff that I love about it. In fact, ergonomics look like they might be even slightly improved, which is awesome. Where I kind of gave pause yesterday, I mentioned this, is if you look at the price point of this, right, what you have to do to get into this system, the camera is being launched at $2,200 plus taxes. And then if you want the new 12 to 40 Pro, they're selling that for like half off, so like $500-600 an uplift or an increase. That's interesting because I think they improved the optics on that lens, and it's also IP53 certified. So if that's a lens you really like, I think that's kind of a must-have with that purchase. So let's pretend you didn't get that lens. You're still at $2,200, and you get the battery grip like I like, right? That's an extra $350. So you're at $2,550. That's That's a lot of money. And now, as a promo, they're giving you an extra battery, so you'll get 2 batteries, and they're giving you 3 years extra warranty on top of the 1 year that comes with it for a total of 4 years in warranty. That's a pretty good start, right? Especially, I don't know how often that OM Systems plans on refreshing these models. I would expect that they're going to do the next iterations of the cameras are next in line to get these updates. So you might be holding on to this thing for a couple years, few years before they update it, which is fine, by the way. Like I mentioned in my video yesterday, my photography skills have a long way to go before I exceed even the camera I'm looking at right now. But, and this is kind of the challenge, right? When you look at other cameras at the price point that you have to buy this into, you're kind of paying a premium for being a first adopter. There's a lot of good cameras that are cheaper or equal in cost. And I'll go through a few of them right now as we think about this. Let's talk about the Nikon Z6 II. Great camera. Very similar or same price point, maybe even less. I'll put some prices up here as I talk. Again, like you have all the F lenses you can adapt. You can put S lenses on there. They're baking out that system fully, so great system. You can get into a Canon R6, 20 megapixel sensor, great IBIS, autofocus is fantastic. Again, all the lenses you need, no problem there. You can get into Sony A7 Mark IV, the new camera. Autofocus is top notch, like similar like the A9 or A9 II. All the lenses you could ever imagine, plenty of third-party support, and all 3 of those come with full-frame sensors, right? You got the Lumix S5 for probably $500-600 less after you get on. They have a bunch of deals. I would say the autofocus isn't as good, but nonetheless, it's a full-frame camera for less money. That's got dual card slots, and it's got some of the same party tricks that the OM-1 has. In other words, the high-res shot and that kind of thing. Now, can it do it handheld like the Olympus? No. Can it do like the handheld live composite the OM-1 can do? No, definitely not. So there's things that the Olympus has as an advantage, or OM Systems has an advantage. What else falls in there? There's a couple others as well. The real elephant in the room, if you aren't interested in full frame, is the Fuji X-T4. I mean, it's what, $1,600 or somewhere in that ballpark. It can do most, if not all, of what the Olympus can do with an APS-C chip. Now, the caveat to all this is is the stabilization as good? Probably not. Is it as weather sealed? Well, that's a definite no. Can it do some of the party tricks like the Starry Sky AF and like the Astro Tracker and the live composite and handheld high res and built-in ND simulation? Like, no, I can't do those things. That's stuff. If you like those things, like Olympus is the spot to be for you. But just in general photography, I don't know. It's a tough sell. It's a tough sell. You got to really think about what you're going to do or what you're going to be as a photographer, or what you like to do with your kids, or maybe just as a hobby, right? Are you into wildlife? I think this is a great thing for you to consider. Are you don't like carrying all the weight, kind of an adventure photographer? I think this is the camera for you. If you're into portraits, is it the first stop? Probably not. But you could put on there, a 45 1.2 or 75 1.8 or whatever, and shoot some great portraits. It can do all that. I don't think there's much that this new OM-1 can't do, except for, again, when you do a side-by-side comparison of what we think it will do versus what full frame will do in terms of depth of field equivalence or super high ISO performance. And so it competes on those levels, but it also interferes on price. And you have to think about this. As cell phones continue to dominate the market and computational photography is the thing, where are we going to land and what systems are dominant and who has the R&D dollars? I would say primarily that's going to be Canon and Sony, based on where things are at now. I think you even see Fuji pulling back a little bit. They have a hard time getting product out the door. And I think the XH2 that's coming out is going to be impressive. Did the OM-1 bring new people into Micro Four Thirds? I don't think so. That's why you can't call it a wow camera. But it do a lot to keep and retain their M43 base, Micro Four Thirds base. I think so. And I think the GH6 coming out is going to do more for that. I think it's going to be more video specific. I think it's going to utilize a similar sensor, but in a different way, based on some of the specs I'm seeing. We'll see. I think it was next week it comes out. And so, going through the decision-making process of is this where my money should be spent? Is this a good value proposition? Is there a good upgrade path here? All those things came into play. And so what I ended up doing, to get to the point, is I ended up pre-ordering the camera. And the reason is simply because I know there's supply chain shortages, chip shortages. Just get it and reserve my spot, and then I can do a comparison to this EM1 Mark III and make a decision from there. And in seeing this camera, I think will determine my future with Micro Four Thirds as I continue out this year trying to stick with one camera, although I ordered this camera. So yeah, anyways, let's not talk about that. But where do you want your money? Where do you want your money? And what is important to you? And will this service you well enough for the next 5 years? And do I care, I'm 37 now, what the next 30 years of my life look like in terms of what camera's system I'll be invested in? I am trying to stick to one system, and that's, Micro Four Thirds is fully baked out. It offers a lot of what I want and what I need. Sometimes do I get envy for full frame lust? Sure. Sometimes I want like a Leica just because it's got this premium. Sure, I do. Absolutely. But when it comes to all the things I got to do, for example, skiing this weekend, snowmobiling, this camera's fantastic. I'm going to shoot some portraits. It can do it. I shoot video stabilized, handheld. It can do it. It can really do everything. But if you're trying to like do this comparison game, sometimes you get caught up in like, oh, that sensor's a little bigger. Oh, it's a little bit noisier. And the reality is if I showed you a picture shot on a 25 1.2 versus a 50 1.8 and all things equal, you're going to have a hard time telling the difference. And I would say, the optical quality of the Zuiko glass that they have is amazing as well. So I ended up pre-ordering the camera. I will do a proper unboxing, and I will talk about the camera, and I'll even do some comparison side-by-side testing when I get the camera in hand. So there's that. Also, let me come close to the camera here. Autofocus, do your thing. See this? You guys can't see, there's a bruise on my nose. There's also a bunch of scarring up here in my head. Yeah, I decided to try and actually work out for the first time in forever, and I dropped weights on my head. This has been the craziest start to a year ever. I just don't know what's going to happen next at this point. So, yeah. Anyways, autofocus test. How's it doing? Is it keeping me? That's too close, isn't it? There we go. Minimum focusing distance. Yeah. Anyway, okay, guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video, and let me know your thoughts. Should I pre-order this? Is it a bad value proposition? I know I'm beating this to death, but it's the last time I'll talk about it until I get the camera. Promise. See ya. Bye.